All right, section 2.4 starts on page 79. We are writing linear equations. Some of you will find this pretty simple. Some of you may struggle a little bit, but I've got to make it as simple as I can, as clear as I can. Just pay close attention. Y equals mx plus b is the formula you've got to have memorized. You're going to use it on pretty much every single problem that you do as far as writing equations. There are several other equations that you can use depending on what information is given, but this one works for everything. So I don't mess with the other ones. I figure if you can memorize one, then you'll have it for all the problems that you have. What does m represent from last time? The slope. So if you know the slope, if they just tell you the slope, you can plug that in for m. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. Does anybody know what b is? Y-intercept. Very good. So there's two things you will need, the slope and the y-intercept. And then x and y, that's simply a point. So if you know x and y, you can plug those in. If it says the point passes through 3, 4, then you can plug that in for x and y. Okay? So depending on what information they give you, you should be able to plug those things in there. You'll need to know 3 before you can use that to solve for the other. Slope is the one that you usually have to find. Sometimes in the easier problems, they'll just tell you what the slope is. But if they give you 2 points, for instance, you'll have to use the slope value. So what you need to think about every problem you get today is, what are they giving me? What do I know out of here? And then what don't I know? What do I have to figure out? And again, easy ones, they're just going to tell you what these 2 things are. Because your end result should be something like that, where you're going to leave the y and the x as they are and find your slope and your y-intercept. So this is the goal today, to write an equation like that. It'll be similar to last time. Last time you were graphing based on what they give you. Today you're writing an equation based on what they give you. So we're on page 80. We'll do a few examples. Slope is 4/3, passes through 3, 2. Of course, at the top of that, it would say write an equation for a line. But we're going to assume you know that on your line. Write an equation for the line that has slope 4/3 and passes through 3, 2. So it's probably a good idea, every problem, to write that down. Some of you will, and you'll know what you're doing. Some of you won't, and you'll get lost in the problem. So, do we know what a y is? Do we have a y we can plug in? Do we know what a slope is? How about an x? Do we know b? No. So b is what you have to find here. So remember, this is your x, and that's your y, and there's your m. So just plug them in. So 2 equals 4/3 times 3 plus b. So b is the only thing you don't know. That's the only thing you need to find. So what's 4/3 times 3? Anybody? What's going to happen to the 3's? So you're left with the 4. And now how would you finish solving for b? So subtract 4. So negative 2 equals b. Do we know m now? Do we know b? So we're done. We just got to plug the stuff back in. So y equals 4/3 x minus 2. Your b is negative. We obviously change that sign. Let's look at one if they give you 2 points, negative 0.4 and negative 4.5. So we are to write an equation that passes through those 2 points. That's all the information they tell us. So if we write our equation down, y equals mx plus b, what do we know? Do we know a y? Yeah, we got 2 of them to choose from. Do we know our slope? No. Do we know an x? Yeah, again, we got 2 of them. Do we know a b? No. So we can't use this formula yet because we have 2 things that we don't know. So we have to find slope using the slope formula from last time. So remember, that's x1, y1, x2, and y2. So you probably want to copy the slope formula on top here. So y2 minus y1 would be 5 minus 4. x2 minus x1 would be negative 4 plus 1, or minus negative. So what do we have on top? 1 over negative 3. So that's your slope. Negative 1/3. So now going back to this, do we now know 3 things? Yeah. So you do this problem just like you did the last. A lot of times after the first step, it's going to all the problems will be the same. You're going to usually end up having to solve for b. So it doesn't matter which point you use. So we have 4 equals positive 1/3 plus b, and what do we need to do? What? Right, subtract 1/3 from both sides. You will need to get an improper fraction, not a decimal and not a mixed number. So what is the improper fraction here? What? 4/3? I got 11/3. Make sure you put that in parentheses. The 1/3, 4 minus 1/3, that has to be in parentheses. So now we know m and b again. Plug them in. Those are the 2 more simple cases, and then you get into the parallel and perpendicular ones, which were like the parallel and perpendicular ones from last time. Only again, last time you had the graph, today you have to write an equation. So if you are given an equation, y equals 4x plus 3, what's the slope of that? The slope is 4. We can all see that. M equals 4. So if I tell you that an equation is perpendicular to that one, what would your slope be? Negative what? We change the sign, and we do the reciprocal. So instead of 4, we have 1 over 4. Okay? That's what they're going to give you in your homework problems. So again, it's right equation of the line that passes through 3, 7. And is perpendicular to the line y equals 3/4 x minus 5. So write an equation of the line that passes through 3, 7 and is perpendicular to the line y equals 3/4 x minus 5. So just like all the other problems, we've got to fill in that formula. So do we know a y? Did it tell us a point? So we know a y. Do we know our slope yet? Did it just flat out tell us what our slope was? No. Do we know an x? Yeah, that's 3. Do we know a b? Did it tell us the y-intercept? No.
But we know the slope. Because it's perfect.
Right.
Line.
We're getting there. So what's the slope of this line? 3/4. It says it's perpendicular to this line. This is not your line. A lot of kids get confused. This is not the line you're trying to graph. That's just telling us it's perpendicular to that. That's a different line. It's not the one you're trying to write the equation for. So if the slope of this one is 3/4, what would a line perpendicular be? Negative. Always going to change the sign. 4 over 3. If you know that much, if you can figure that out, then these problems aren't any more difficult than any of the rest of them. Because they are pretty much telling you the slope, which is what he was saying. They're pretty much telling you by this, they are telling you the slope. So it's even actually a little easier than the other problems. You just have to know this. So now we can plug the 7 in for the y, negative 4/3 in for slope, 3 for the x, plus b. So what is b? What? 11 equals b. And then you just write your equation. Make sure you use the correct slope and not the other one. So what if it said parallel to this line? What slope would you use? 3/4. You don't change that one at all. Leave it as it is. Let's look at some homework. This is probably the only section we're going to do today. So I want you to really understand how to write the equation. Go on page 82 and 83. Let's do 1 through 8. Through 22.